Okay, so starting at the back of our mats, opening up our knees wide, going into child's pose as our first pose. Lowering our head to the mat, reaching our arms to the front of our mat, and then rolling out any tension in our forehead muscles. Focusing on our breath, trying to slow down our breathing. Trying to not think about anything else that you're going to do after the yoga practice, but just focusing on the present moment. Right here, right now. And coming to some stillness, closing your eyes, taking an inhale and an exhale. Trying to take big deep breaths, notice our belly rising and falling on our exhale. Rolling on up to our all fours, arching our spine, rolling on forwards, lowering our chest down, coming up into a slight back extension, little cobra, and then pushing on our knees, rolling back into child's pose. This time we're going to roll the shoulders up, arching the spine, and then as we get to cat-cow position, tabletop position, sinking the belly down, hips to sky, and lowering forwards to chest to floor. Coming into our little back extension, squeeze the glutes, squeeze the core, and then pushing back through to child's pose. One more of these. So rolling the spine, rounding at the shoulders, coming to tabletop. Exhale, dipping the belly down, looking up, arched back, and then lowering through to the floor, chest to floor. Taking an inhale in our little cobra, and then pushing through our hands and knees, coming back into child's pose. We're going to move into similar but a slight variation now of a spinal wave. So same again to start, rolling on up, but this time we're going to stay rolled and then lower, only exhaling when we come into our final position of cobra. And then rounding back to child's pose. And again, rolling through the spine. Try keep it rolled and rounded this whole time before lowering into up cobra. A little bit like a snake, pushing through, rounding back into child's pose. Last one, really round the spine all the way forwards before dropping down into our cobra. You can see that S shape that we're trying to create through our movement for pushing back to child's pose. Walking our hands forwards, coming up into tabletop and pushing through the feet, coming into downward facing dog. Lifting our right leg up to the sky, stepping it forward, resting the left knee down, coming into our lizard pose, holding here. So trying to maybe take out the feet to the widest part of our mat to create more space. Hands flat on our mat. Feeling the stretch in our left hip flexor. And then taking our right hand and trying to push that knee outwards. Trying to see if you can roll onto the outside border of our feet. Coming back to centre now, heel toeing your foot across to the other side of our mat. Try to see if you can come into a 90-degree angle at the knee. Don't worry about getting too low, but the aim here is for the 90-degree angle at the knee in our pigeon pose. Feeling the stretch in our hips. This can feel really uncomfortable, so just aiming to channel our breath again and breathe through it. Nice slow exhales. Trying to stay up nice and tall. I like to pin my foot with my left hand to stop the foot trying to slide out of this 90-degree angle, so it keeps it nice and strict in the hips. I'm really trying to sink down deep into it. And you'll notice that the longer you hold the pose for, you start to gain more range as you sink deeper into the position. Now bringing our hands forward, you're now allowed to bend the knee, tucking it in, keeping the right knee pointing to the corner of our yoga mat, and option now to come lower onto our forearms. So this is still getting the glutes, but now we can have a stronger angle in the knee. So it just targets the hips a little different. And then just build in some rocking movements, almost like we're rolling out the hip. And notice at what points you notice extra muscular tension. Option now to lower chest to the mat, but if you can't reach, option to have a bolster or a pillow and just rest your head on this. But if you can, relaxing head down. Coming up nice and tall, taking your time, flipping the back foot, release your front leg back into that tabletop position, maybe just adding some gentle knee bending and straightening just to get blood flow back to the leg. Then before and when you're ready, pushing tall into downward facing dog, lifting the left leg up to the sky and stepping it through for lizard on the left side. So dropping the right knee down, sinking deep, try stay upright and keeping that foot right at the edge of our yoga mat, so it gives you more space to then sit through. And it's okay if you're here, it's okay if you can't reach the floor, it's okay if you just want to stay in this lunge position. That's still stretching the muscles that we're trying to target. For a little extra stretch, use your left hand and push the knee wider as you try to keep your hips sinking down. Try to keep your hips square, facing forward, and then just taking the knee outwards. Try not to twist too much. And let your foot roll onto its outside lateral border. Then placing your hands down, heel toe your foot through and under your arms to sit in that 90-degree angle lizard pose. Option again to try fix your leg to keep it in that 90-degree angle by anchoring yourself with your hands. And just trying to sink deep. Now if this is too much, feel free to move out of the 90-degree angle and then soften that knee angle so it feels more comfortable. The aim is though we are trying to keep 90 degrees at the knee to target our hip rotators. And then now moving into our deeper stretch, so allowing our knee to bend and bring our foot inwards, lowering ourselves onto our forearms to come forward. Notice how this stretch feels slightly different now as we target another area of our hip muscles. And again, option to lower our head to the mat and really sink deep into this stretch. Focusing on our breathing and exhaling into the tension. Bringing ourselves back up, hands stacked under shoulders, flipping the feet, stepping on through, back to our downward facing dog, pedaling out the feet, bending the knees, just getting blood flow back to the legs. Taking a moment here just to relax, take our breath, feel the stretch in our posterior legs. Before lowering on down onto our knees, bringing our knees all the way to meet our hands, rolling onto our bottoms, before extending out our right leg and keeping our left leg nice and bent and near to us. From here, we're going to take our left hand behind us and anchor our right hand on the back of our left knee and create a slight twist. Feel your spine twisting open, aiming to inhale and straighten the spine and exhale, twisting round. Trying to get that little bit deeper. If this is too much, you can just hold the knee and see how far you can twist, but for that extra pressure, then we're trying to plant our elbow on our outside knee. Then straightening our left leg, bending our right, taking our left hand up and hugging it round. Right hand behind us, again, option just to hold and twist. Or anchoring the left elbow on the right knee to twist that bit further. Straightening out our legs, adding a slight bend in the knees. We're going to walk our hands down to our feet, holding onto our feet, whether that's the ankles or hooking onto the toes, and aiming to bring our belly to our thighs. From here, we're going to try take the feet slightly further so we can increase our depth in our lower back. From here, straightening the legs, coming up nice and tall. See if you can create an arch in your spine. Point the feet up and then just reaching forwards. But aiming to keep that spine nice and straight. So whether that's here, but we don't want to create a bend now. So we're trying to keep it nice and tall. Taking an inhale and an exhale. Feeling the stretch in the backs of our legs. And using our hands to try and anchor ourselves and keep that stretch and straightness in our spine. I often find it easier to look up because that encourages the whole spine to go into extension. Because if we look down, it can be quite hard to get that same proprioceptive feedback. So sometimes it can be quite nice when we're trying to encourage spinal extension to start with the head and then let the spine follow in the direction of the head. And coming back to bent knees, hugging our belly to our thighs, stretching lumbar flexion. stretching tall, straightening the legs, and in our back extension again. On every exhale, try and pull yourself a little bit closer. Maybe aiming to then get the forearms onto your thighs. Taking your hands behind us now, bending our knees, hugging our legs to our thighs, our thighs to our belly, and then rolling down, giving ourselves a nice hug, hugging in nice and tight with the legs. And just doing little rolls to massage out the spine. So taking a moment of stillness, hands in cactus position, so elbows at 90 degrees, relaxing down, taking the legs out straight in front of you, and see if you can now push the chest through, lifting your back off the floor, arms still in cactus, using that to anchor and bring the chest up. And exhale, relaxing down. See if you can now take it in the opposite direction, exhaling all the way through, that your back is then flat on the mat. Option to bend knees to create more anchor, to then help create this contraction. Inhale, pushing tall, arching the spine. And exhale all the way. See if you can round the pelvis and get your belly all the way touching the floor. So you're nice and squished. Last one. Inhale, reaching up. Getting the back nice and tall as you can. Shoulders still planted on the yoga mat. And exhale, pushing belly down. Contract your transabdominis. Squeezing those core muscles, creating a flat spine. And then find somewhere in the middle between those two end ranges that's your neutral. You'll notice now when you're more aware of when you're flaring into your lower back and when we need to activate the core more and the pelvis to bring it into that more neutral spine. This is a really good technique if you do suffer from back pain to be more aware of that neutral spinal position with some core activation. You can be aware of it in seated, in lying and in standing all throughout your day. Finishing our practice now with one of your breathing techniques of choice, whether this is box breathing where we inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4 and hold for 4. Or another one of your choice. Staying here now in Shavasana for a couple minutes to end your practice.